Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here and welcome to episode 24 of Gold Goes to the Movies. We're almost at the quarter century. Incredible. I don't know how we've managed it, and thank you for still being here as well. I'm going to rattle through these because I've got a bumper episode today. 11 movies. Obviously going to review them as normal in a very spoiler-free way, so you can kind of get a sense of whether you want to watch them. You can watch them after if you want, or watch the reviews after you've seen it if you like, but I try to do it in a way that if you're going to go to the cinema, this might give you an indication of whether you should bother or not. Not that my opinion should be the be-all and end-all, but there you go. I am going to rattle through them. Don't worry, this is not going to be an epically long video, as long as these movies, some of these I'm going to talk about, because there are some pretty lengthy movies in this bunch. But I just wanted to rattle through. I know it's been a little while since I've done one, so they've mounted up. We've got some brand new releases in The Running Man and Frankenstein, a cinema trip I did before I went away for a little while, which was one battle after another. We had an Apple release with All of You, which I watched. Watched a couple of slightly older films, Barbarian on Disney Plus, and I watched kind of the Blast from the Past movie, but it's not that ancient. It's Ford versus Ferrari. And then I went on a couple of long-haul flights. So 5 movies that I watched in the darkness on long-haul flights, which were Away We Go, 28 Years Later, The Ballad of Wallis Island, The Alto Knights, and Ballerina, part of the John Wick franchise. So let's start off straight away with The Running Man, which is the new take on the Stephen King book. Obviously written, you might be aware if you know this, under his pseudonym Richard Bachman back in 1982. Funnily enough, the book was set in, which was the future then, in the year 2025. Hello, we're here. And it's not quite like the book, although definitely some aspects of real life do mirror it. This is a more faithful adaptation of that book, rather than a remake of the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that many of you will have seen. I saw it myself, enjoyed it back in the day. This is very much a more fresh, modern take on it. It's directed by Edgar Wright, who you may well know from Baby Driver, which my family absolutely adore. It is a terrific film. The Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, of course. And he wrote this film with Michael Bacall, who co-wrote Scott Pilgrim versus the World with him. Actually, Michael Bacall, I think, if I remember correctly, is on the credits twice. Once as a solo writer and once as a co-writer with Edgar Wright. I'm not sure I've seen that before. I'm sure it must have happened before. I've just never noticed it before. But actually have your name twice within the same written by section. So, a little bit of backstory quickly on this. Edgar Wright said many, many years ago on social media that The Running Man was the movie he most wanted to remake. And here he is, exactly doing that. It's his first movie shot entirely on digital cameras, from what I understand. And it stars Glenn Powell, who is the go-to leading man of the moment, and he is very good in this, very watchable. He's been terrific in Twisters, Hitman. I know he had a smaller role in Top Gun Maverick as well, but he is the kind of go-to man right now. But it's got a terrific cast. Got really strong turns from Coleman Domingo, Josh Brolin, the increasingly busy Katie O'Brien, who's been in, what's she been in recently? Love Lies Blind. I'm struggling today. Love Lies Bleeding, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, The Mandalorian she was in as well. Twisters, actually, which I've just mentioned. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, she was in that too. She's very good in this as well. There's cameos from William H. Macy, from Lee Pace, Michael Cera, Sean Hayes. And the plot of it all revolves around, if you haven't seen the original, it does have that similarity, and obviously it's from the book. It's based on a brutal game show where essentially contestants must survive on the run while being tracked down by a group of hunters, but also they can be reported by the general public in a society that has this very clear class divide. That's probably the difference to the original. If I'm not mistaken, I think the original was set in this kind of production studio-y kind of area, inside and outside, whereas this is out in the world, and they've got to just get across America and escape. And Yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed it. The action's great. It's very innovatively filmed in certain aspects, and as usual with Edgar Wright, you get great music too. Um, I would say I felt it's an excellent movie up until the ending. I would definitely say the ending was just a bit meh. After everything that come before, which was really, it was innovative, it was really exciting, it had you on the edge of your seat for a lot of it, and the ending was just like, oh, okay, all right then. That's where we're gonna go with this. Then it's like it kind of. I think that's it. I think that's what frustrated me, that it raced along as a movie. Yeah, it tiptoes on the line of credibility at times, but it really had this lovely kind of modern futuristic take, but also with a bit of a retro 80s vibe to it. And then it gets to the ending, and it's a bit like, oh, okay, we're done. Are we? Fair enough. Right, okay, that's what we're going to do here. And it's not giving anything away. It's just, and I'm sure some people will really like it, and you could maybe argue it's in keeping with the tone of the story, perhaps. But yeah, I don't think that's to detract from the whole movie. I wouldn't want anyone to go, because I think everyone may have very different views on how a movie should end. Because the rest of the film, it's a good old dollop of fun. It's very enjoyable. It's got this underlying message about kind of the media, the use of AI, deep fakery, society, what we crave from society, what we crave from our TV viewing, how we can be spoon-fed certain things. It's quite interesting in that aspect. And like I said, Powell is just a movie star. He absolutely is. Josh Brolin is the corporate bad guy, plays it very well. Common Domingo's brilliant. Great fun as the host of the show. I really like Common Domingo. He's just been in so many good things recently, not only movies but also the Four Seasons, the Netflix show. I thought he was terrific in that as well. There's a few nods to the original movie, which I'm not going to say, and also some Stephen King other tales. You might notice little nods towards those if you listen or watch closely enough. Those actually who know the Wembley area in London might also recognise some of the locations in the movie. It's really interesting when you see stuff like that, where it's kind of areas you've been and you're like, okay. It somehow doesn't take you out of it, which it really should, but it doesn't. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how well it does at the box office. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes or so, and it's an enjoyable 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's one of those that flies by. It doesn't feel like a longer film. But I'm intrigued to see how it does. They've kind of got it out there before Wicked returns, and a lot of people are going to kind of flock to go and see that. But yeah, aside from my slight about the ending, and that's not to say it's a bad ending, it's just like, I kind of expected a little bit better. But it's a really good film. It's a really good fun film. And I'm intrigued to see, like I say, how it does. So the other new release, Frankenstein. That is Guillermo del Toro's, I think it's 35 years in the making. He's been kind of trying to get this one out there. Obviously, his take on Mary Shelley's classic novel. Various people have been linked with playing the creature over the years. I think there's Benedict Cumberbatch at one point. I think Del Toro discussed about potentially playing him. And when it was actually greenlit, I don't know if you remember this, but it was originally announced to have Andrew Garfield as the creature, which has been very interesting to see what his take on it would have been. However, with the SAG-AFTRA strikes, scheduling all went a bit haywire, and it meant he had to pull out, which meant in came Jacob Elordi, who is absolutely superb in this. He is so good. There's Elodie, maybe it's Elodie. He's just so good. He's really, really is. Just a kind of a little bit of the preparation thing for you. It took him 10 hours to get into the makeup to play the creature. And sometimes he would actually come in the night before for a morning shoot and just stay awake and then get rolling as soon as they started in the morning. And don't forget, that makeup work had to be reworked very quickly. I think it was within the space of maybe a fortnight, for a few weeks anyway, after having been prepared for the previous 9 months for Andrew Garfield. So it's terrific, and it is so natural. It's a different looking Frankenstein's creature than we're used to seeing. And it allows Elordi's just performance to be so emotive as well. Sometimes, these kind of the makeup and effects and everything can get in the way of a performance. I feel like this lends to it. It's I just really like this film. I was a little bit wary that I was going to watch another retread over a classic tale. Here's someone else having a version very similar to others that I've seen. because obviously you've got the Kenneth Branagh and Robert De Niro version that came out back in the day, but this feels fresh. It feels grand. It feels epic. It's really emotional. Like I said, a lot of it comes through the creature. It's about 2.5 hours, and again, doesn't feel like a long film. I think because it's split into these 3 distinct parts, which are the prelude, Victor's tale, and the creature's tale. Oscar Isaac, if you're not aware, is Victor, and he brings loads of terrific layers to his character. He makes us sympathise with him at times, especially when you kind of know his upbringing, which we see in Victor's tale, and then he loses you a little bit because you see in parts him becoming his father, which would have been the last thing he would have wanted to become, and there's a kind of a coldness and a brutality to some of the decisions he makes. And his father, by the way, is played by Charles Dance, and why that's quite an interesting thing is that Charles Dance has already played Victor Frankenstein's father in the movie Victor Frankenstein, which was the one, if you might remember, with James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe as Igor. Didn't do very well, was pretty much panned, but Charles Dance has had a second go, a second dance, last dance. But he's good as well. He just brings his Charles Danciness to it. You know what you're going to get with Charles Dance. He is such a powerhouse kind of actor, and often will play a certain kind of, as we saw in Game of Thrones, this kind of brutal kind of guy, and he does it again. Mia Goth is in this as Lady Elizabeth Harlander, who is the fiancée of Victor's brother William. She's great. This is probably the most straightforward role I've seen her play, quite a linear role, but it's a really sweet, understated performance. It kind of gives a nice extra little bit of heart alongside the creature to the film. There's also Christoph Waltz, who is he's her uncle in the movie, and he's just brilliant as normal. And there's a lovely little small turn. We talk about Game of Thrones from David Bradley, who's Game of Thrones, Harry Potter films. And he just has this really pivotal little part in the creature's story. He's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this far more than I expected, even though I really do love a Guillermo del Toro film. And I knew it was going to hit a certain level, but for me, I was really surprised at kind of where it went. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's got this epic scale to it, even though you're kind of watching it on Netflix as well. Even if I would recommend watching it on the biggest screen you can get, because they built a lot of big practical sets rather than kind of being all digitally created. It's all the better for it. It feels like you're in there in the middle of the action rather than watching something created in a computer world. It very much feels like you are there in this time. I think it's done all right. It's had the 5th highest viewing debut on Netflix this year. And I reckon word of mouth will help it get a lot more, I think, over the kind of weeks and months to come. It's really good. It's really good. I think this might be up there. There's a few up there for my film of the video, and I think that's definitely up there. Let's plow on with the other 9 movies that we've got to get through. I don't want to dwell too long on these ones. I thought the newer ones would give them a little bit more time, but the other ones we're going to absolutely try and rattle through them. The first is One Battle After Another, which is the Paul Thomas Anderson movie that wowed the critics and made more money, I think, within the first couple of weeks of release than any of his previous movies. I think it's since made $197 million. Although it is also the most expensive movie he's ever made as well. He's not known for these big expensive movies. Apparently it was greenlit at $115 million. And if you believe the media, it came out as $175 million, whereas Warner Brothers, I think, have suggested it's closer to $130. But it's a terrific film. It's really, really good. It's written and directed by Anderson, and it's inspired by the 35-year-old novel Vineland by Thomas Pynchon. Again, another film that has been long gestating and based, or kind of, in this sense, I would say inspired by the novel, definitely. I think he was wary of trying to adapt the novel, so kind of use it as an inspiration for his own stories. The plot, without giving anything away, it centres on revolutionaries, a very dodgy military officer who is trying to make a name for himself in an even dodgier organisation. It's a long movie. I think it's the longest of the bunch, clocking in at 2 hours 41. There's one movie a bit later, I can't remember, might be slightly longer, but yeah, it's got at its centre an excellent Leonardo DiCaprio performance. He's very good. I feel like he gets better and better as the movie goes on. It's almost like he warms up with the character as well. A brilliant Sean Penn performance, which is so out there and extreme. I would be stunned if it is not an Oscar favourite come those awards. Benicio del Toro is very good in it as well. Tiana Taylor is terrific. I would also expect and hope she will be in the Oscars conversation as well. My honest take on the movie, when I went in to watch it, I was one of those who sit in the cinema on my own in an early afternoon. I have midweek days off sometimes, so I often will use it to go to the cinema and just sit there in comfort in a very kind of near empty cinema. And it started off, and I thought it started brilliantly. Like I say, Tiana Taylor and Sean Penn, they just dominate the screen. There's like fireworks or whatever coming off of them. It's brilliant, their interactions. Then it went through this little phase where I was a bit like, okay, it's good. It's maybe not as incredible as everyone seems to be making out. And then it just starts to go, and it just ramps up and up and up. And it is so good. I completely understood why everyone was wowed about it. It's got some great scenes. It's got some great set pieces. There is one scene later on, if you haven't seen it already, that involves hills and winding roads, which is one of the best sequences I've seen put on film this year. It's so good. It's one of those where you kind of find yourself smiling or just mouthing like, wow, as you're watching it. It's that good. So yeah, well worth watching if you get the chance. It's a terrific film. Next up, far snappier, quicker film, All of You, only an hour and 38 minutes on Apple TV. Stars Brett Goldstein and Imogen Poots. Goldstein co-wrote this with William Bridges, who directed it. Again, another long gestating project. I think they worked on it for a decade together, this film. You can kind of officially file this movie under sci-fi romance, although I would say if you're not a fan of sci-fi, don't let that put you off, because I would say the sci-fi is very much restricted to a test that people take in this movie where they can tell you who your soulmate is for life. It could be someone nearby, it could be someone across the world. This test will find your soulmate for life and take all of the hard work out of finding them. That's it. I wouldn't say anything else, and everything else in the movie feels like it's now. But that is the one sci-fi element to it. Other than that, really, it's just a romantic kind of story about two best friends who clearly are meant for each other, but one of them has found their chosen soulmate, or has been told their chosen soulmate. It's very well acted. It's got some great lines, great dialogue, as you would expect by anything that Brett Goldstein writes. But it's also incredibly frustrating, and maybe that's the point of it. But I would say sometimes you root for this pair, these duo that seem so right for each other, and then at other times, some of the decisions they make are quite dislikable, and you're kind of like, I don't really I think that's the problem maybe I had with it. I liked it, but despite the terrific chemistry of the two leads, it kind of got to a point as the movie got on. It's like, I don't really care if you end up together or not. And that's maybe not a good thing for a romantic story, but maybe that's where they're trying to take it. I don't know. And I don't think everyone will connect with particularly the second half of the movie. So it's an interesting one. It makes you think, but I just feel like it doesn't maintain the momentum of the first half of the film. Up next, 28 Years Later, which I finally got to see on a flight. I missed out on the cinema. Yes, I know the flight's not the perfect viewing experience for a movie of that scale, but I sometimes feel, when I feel this, and I know some directors will go, no, but I do feel like sometimes if you're sitting in the dark and you have a screen right in front of you, sometimes the scale feels the same as if you're sitting in a cinema watching a big screen, just purely because it's so close to your eyes and you are invested fully in it. Yes, I know that sometimes the set pieces and the things that are put on the screen don't feel as big, but I do feel that you're sucked into the world sometimes almost as much as a cinema viewing. And yeah, I think it worked well for this film, I would say. If you're not aware what this movie is, it's the long in development, third movie of the franchise, of course it is, the zombie apocalypse franchise. This one, again, directed after the first one by Danny Boyle. It's written by Alex Garland. It's actually shot back-to-back with the fourth movie, which will be called 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which is directed by Nia DaCosta, not Danny Boyle. I think he produces that one. And I think the success of that next film will decide whether we get the third one in what is meant to be a new trilogy. There's no Cillian Murphy in this movie, although he is expected to return, I think, potentially for part 3, if not part 2. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not. So for this movie, we have Aaron Taylor-Johnson, we've got Jodie Comer, a young Alfie Williams as their son. They're all very, very good. I love their kind of... they live in this kind of safe haven community in this apocalyptic world. But one reason or another means they have to go outside that. And what is outside it is... it's genuinely unnerving and horrifying. It's... you see different movies and TV shows and the way they deal with zombies and infected people or whatever you want to call them. And sometimes it's a little bit like, that's not that scary, or it's more scary by numbers. Whereas with 28 years later, just the variety of different things, it's very well done in that respect. And Ralph Fiennes actually turns up in a role which is an interesting role. It's a thought-provoking role. It's maybe not where you expect the role to be, and I liked it as well. I know there's been some criticisms about the film being a bit uneven, and I'd agree with that. There's kind of moments when it can be really thrilling, and then the next moment it kind of plods along a little bit. But it looks stunning, and like I said, the threat of what lies behind the walls it's horrifying. It's really well done, and the ending of the whole movie I know has also been divisive. I know one person that hated the ending, I know another that thought it was really good. I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of felt in keeping with the story, so I didn't mind it really. I will go and see the next one because I enjoyed it, and please let me know in the comments what you thought of it, because it was a bit of a divisive film. Next film, which I knew very little about, in contrast to 28 Days Later, and then obviously now 28 years later, is Away We Go, which is a Sam Mendes directed film, written by David Eggers and Vendela Vida. It stars John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph as two soon-to-be parents looking to find a place to raise their child. And it means they go and visit family and friends across USA to find the perfect place to raise this unborn child. I completely missed this movie when it came out. I must admit, despite being quite a big Sam Mendes fan, I wasn't even really aware of it coming out. It was back in 2009, but I just somehow missed it. And it's a really lovely film. It's got a really nice heart to it. It's funny. Two hugely charismatic leads that work really well together. It's got some very funny little moments and lines. There was one scene involving a buggy or a stroller, I think they call it in America, that had both my wife and I, who were watching it independently at different times on the flight, absolutely cracking up. It was so funny. Talking of watching on a plane, or just anywhere in particular, opening scene, maybe not the best one to play where other people might hear it that you don't want to hear. You'll know when you see it, if you see it. It's got a really strong supporting cast. You've got Jeff Daniels, you've got Catherine O'Hara, you've got Maggie Gyllenhaal, Alison Janney's in it as well, Melanie Linsky, Chris Messina. It's a really, really good cast. And it's only 98 minutes long. And if you've got an hour and a half or so free, it's a really pleasant, amusing movie. It's not the most memorable thing that's ever been put on film, and with Sam Mendes' great work that he's done in the past, it won't be up there with the kind of the heights of it all. But it's far worse ways to spend your time than to watch it. It's a really good film. One that's not a really good film, it just didn't work for me, is the Alto Knights, however it's pronounced in different parts of the world. On paper, this film should work. It's a crime epic with Robert De Niro playing two different roles. It's mob bosses Vito Genovese and Frank Costello. It's directed by the Rain Man, Diner, Good Morning Vietnam director Barry Levinson. And it's written by the Goodfellas and Casino writer Nicholas Pileggi. It should be just incredible. There's Oscar nominees and winners littered throughout it. But it's just so boring. I love a crime epic, a sprawling crime epic. This wasn't it for me. It would have been more interesting to see almost the origin story of these two gangsters, which is kind of touched upon in the film. I'm like, I want more of that. But instead, we kind of get to see the later years of these two gangsters. And it reminded me a little bit of Capone, the Tom Hardy film, which was a film about a fascinating real-life figure, but they kind of take this part of his life that was probably the most boring, and it was a really boring film for that. And I felt this wasn't as bad as Capone. That was not a fun watch in any way, but it just didn't work for me. It just didn't really go anywhere that really interested me. And look, De Niro's always going to be a decent level, isn't he? And he gets to play two very different characters here, so you see different range out of him. Although I don't know what the movie gains from having him play both roles, other than a gimmick. I would have maybe liked to see him come up against a big, strong actor in the other role. Apparently, it's been floating around this movie for about 50 years and passed on by every studio until it finally got made. And it's not hard to see why, because I can't see why in its current incarnation you would probably greenlight it. And I think, unfortunately, that's been played out in the box office. It was made for about $50 million, I think, and it's made $9.6 million at the box office. It's just okay at the best. It's a shame. It's like The Irishman recently. That's a long film. I don't think it was one of Scorsese's best, but it had some really interesting moments in it amongst that very long runtime. Whereas this, you'd struggle to remember some really memorable moments from the film, and that's not a good thing. Flip into a movie I really enjoyed, and that's the Ballad of Wallis Island, which was great. It's a completely different film, but really enjoyable. It's written by Tom Basden and Tim Key, and it's based on their 2007 BAFTA-nominated short film, The One and Only Herb Maguire Plays Wallis Island. If you don't know their names, they've been in a ton of TV shows that you probably really like. They're both excellent actors. Basden has been in a couple of Ricky Gervais projects in kind of recent years. You had Afterlife he was in David Brent Life on the Road, while Key has been like a frequent collaborator with Steve Coogan in the various Alan Partridge shows, and he's also superb in The Paper, which is the new US Office spin-off, which has been on recently. It was good fun, and he's brilliant in that. And this movie, directed by James Griffith, tells the story of a lottery winner, played by Key, lives on this island off the coast of Wales, who offers up big money for what we initially think is just one member of this folk duo that were very popular, played by Basden, and the woman of the duo, the lady of the duo, played by Carrie Mulligan, and they'll be reunited for a concert on his island. Not the concert that they're probably expecting. And it's just a wonderful little movie. It took 18 days to film. And if you'll pardon the pun, for a film about a folk duo, it's note perfect. It's so good. The performances are great. It is funny. It is constantly funny throughout. It might be my favourite of the bunch. I think it's might be pushing Frankenstein, I think, as my favourite. Very different film, but it's lovely. Please, if you see it anywhere, I watched it on a film. I'm not sure what streaming service it's on right now. I haven't seen it around, but it might be on something soon. It's terrific. It's a lovely, lovely film. Final three movies. We're going to kind of rattle through even quicker. A couple of them older ones. First was Barbarian from 2022, which I finally got around to seeing. It's directed by Zach Kreger, who has since made Weapons, which everyone is raving about, which I really need to see. Barbarian stars Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long, and it starts as the tale of two people who two strangers, don't know each other, who double book an Airbnb in a slightly iffy part of Detroit. Something lurks within this house, though, and it is one of the best made horror films I've seen in a long time. It's very innovative, it's very different, it's not run-of-the-mill. And some of the shots and the way it is filmed are brilliant. And I'm presuming that is what has led us to Weapons, as everyone's raving about as well. So definitely watch that if you like a good horror film. Next up, Ballerina, which technically was advertised as From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. Just to make sure. It's John Wick, people. If you like John Wick, please see this. Please do. It's directed by Len Wiseman, this one, written by Shay Hatton, spin-off, of course, from the world of John Wick, set between the third and fourth movies of that series, with Ana de Armas as the assassin Eve Macaro. There's various actors from the John Wick series, if you do enjoy those. Keanu Reeves turns up as well, and that is not a spoiler, because it was very heavily promoted. He's even on the poster, because, as I said, they wanted people to come and watch it. If you watch John Wick, come and watch this. And if you did like the John Wick films, you will enjoy this. It's not bad. It's not as good as some of those films, but it's a very serviceable action film, and Diarmas is very good in the lead role. Although I would say Keanu popping up, he does kind of grab all the attention when he's on screen. He is the star kind of thing, and it kind of pulls you a little bit towards him. It's yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but it's I think it made about $137 million at the box office, so by all means we could see a sequel at some point. Final movie of the bunch is the Blast from the Past one, but not too far distant past. It's Ford versus Ferrari, which was also called Le Mans 66 in some places across Europe. It's a 2019 movie directed by James Mangold with a great cast. It's got Matt Damon, Christian Bale, John Bernthal. It follows the efforts of the Ford Motor Company, who are trying to regain their mojo a bit, and they're convinced by a couple of people within, mainly John Bernthal's character, to end the dominance of Ferrari at the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans race in France. Everyone involved is great in this film. The race sequences are superb, technically just brilliant the way they're put on film. The leads are brilliant. Bale and Damon are both fantastic. Josh Lucas actually also rocks up as a bit of an enjoyably dislikable bad guy of sorts. It was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. If you haven't seen it already, I think it's got 4 nominations for Academy Awards. Funny enough, it was meant to star originally Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And at one point it was going to be directed by Joseph Kosinski. Harrison Ford actually was also later approached for a part when Mangold took charge of the movie. Before those two worked on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And of course, Kosinski would go on to direct Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick and would direct Brad Pitt in F1, which we had earlier this year. And if you like that movie, as I did, then this movie, if you haven't seen it, you'll love as well. Actually made a lot of money for a movie like this. Made $225.5 million at the box office, which is no mean feat for, an older film about race cars, which might not have universal appeal to everyone, but it's just terrifically made. It's terrifically directed and acted as well. And I loved it. It is a bit of a longer film. It is, I can't remember the exact time. I think it was about 2.5 hours or so, but it's a really good film. And everyone in it more than plays their part. They do. So that's it. We got through the 11 movies. There we go. We rattled through them. Plenty of good ones in there. One mainly not so great. But on the whole, it's actually quite a strong bunch. Quite a good bunch. So we've got loads coming up in the coming weeks. We're kind of getting into that festive Christmas time when the movies start to kind of churn out again. Obviously, Wicked for Good, the big one that's coming out this week or next week. We've got Christie, which is a boxing biopic with Sydney Sweeney, which has not done well in the US. The week after that, we've got Five Nights at Freddy's 2, An Eternity with Miles Teller and Elizabeth Olsen comes out the following week. Then we've got another biggie with Avatar Fire and Ash on December the 19th here in the UK. Before we get the new take on Anaconda, which I'm looking forward to. It sounds a little bit meta with Paul Rudd and Jack Black on, I think that's December 26th, along with Timothée Chalamet's Marty Supreme. So that's it. Like I say, a bumper crop of movies. The next one won't be as long as I promised because there's a fair few streaming ones that I'm going to check out in the next week or so, and also will be going. I think we've got our tickets booked for Wicked for Good as a family, so we'll be watching that. And there's a few others of those I've just read out that I'd like to see. So yeah, loads of movies to enjoy, not dissect whatever comes as you watch them. That's the beauty of movies. There's so many of them. If you don't like one, there's always another one to crack straight on with afterwards. So there you go. Time to head off. As always, stay healthy, stay safety. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. And whatever, don't forget to watch those movies. Goodbye.